Welcome in to another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and joining me today is the host of the Girl Dad Nation podcast, Matthew. Matthew, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man, it's no problem. Thanks for joining me today. Matthew, I want to introduce you to the listeners just a little bit. Then I'm going to have you introduce yourself. But you became a dad in 2019. You said that being a dad in a lot of ways is the most challenging, but also the most rewarding. You want to be the best man you can, growing every day for your wife and for your kids. You're a proud girl dad, obviously, Girl Dad Nation. You share the
Yep.
joys of raising daughters. You love being creative with your kids, inspiring their imaginations, and building their confidence, which is so important. But go ahead and tell us anything else you want us to know about you, the person, the host, and just about your platform, Girl Dad Nation, and how it got started.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to be on with another fellow girl dad. And when I had my daughters, I was just so excited to first be a dad, but then also the challenge of raising girls. And to be honest, I didn't know the first thing about raising girls. I didn't grow up with sisters or anything like that. Um, Honestly, like my wife is still a mystery in a lot of ways. So
Yeah,
it's just been a really fun journey. Just being able to connect with my daughters, be able to connect with my wife now on this parenting journey, and then hopefully encourage and inspire other dads on this journey as well. So yeah, that's kind of how that started. But my oldest is 4 now, and then I've got a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old, and it's just been a crazy ride. So yeah.
that's awesome, man. So you have three kids under four. To me, that
Yes.
sounds
Yeah.
like a bit of a roller coaster ride because mine are 6 and almost 3 now. So
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
past I'm past the baby phase. But how do you guys do it with the 3 under 4 roller coaster?
Yeah. It's just taking it one day at a time. There's good mornings. Everyone's in good spirits. And then there's mornings kind of like today where we make the wrong breakfast and there's a meltdown because they have waffles instead of French toast sticks or whatever. And then we try to load up the car and get to school on time or late usually or whatever, however that works. But yeah, but you just have to just realize that you're in the moment. Try to do the best you can and try to learn every step of the way, every day, try to grow. So, yeah.
I love that. So how did Girl Dad Nation start? Like, what was the idea behind it? What sparked it? What kind of led you down the path to podcasting and sharing the moments and the fun behind being a girl dad?
Yeah, well, it was ambitious for sure because when I started it, my oldest was only 2. And to add one more thing to the daily routine, along working a kind of normal 9 to 5 job, I work full time, and then my wife also works full time. So she's amazing. She's a social worker, and just between the two of us, like trying to balance like our career ambitions, and then this was sort of a fun creative outlet for me. Yeah, a lot like a lot of people, starting sort of a passion project during the pandemic, having more time at home, kind of reprioritizing values, and being a dad was one of my biggest values, like one of my biggest challenges, and ultimately like where I'm called to as a dad and as a husband. So I wanted something that just fueled that natural calling in my role in those things, but also was something fun and also as a way of being able to reach out to the community, um, learn from other dads. I just had so many people in my community that I looked up to and wanted to learn from. And yeah, it's just been amazing so far. Just every conversation I've been able to have through the podcast.
I love that, and I can 100% agree. That's kind of where the podcast started for us too, where it was a creative outlet kind of project. Because before this, I already had my website, my blog, and stuff for
Mhm.
previous to this, writing about sports, baseball, doing that, and podcasting. I had taken a really long extended break from podcasting. I had a podcast going. I was like 20 or 30 episodes into a sports podcast. I was really into it, had a lot of fun with it, and then The divorce happened, and then everything kind of just took a break after that, like a very long hiatus. Um, then I kind of picked it back up. My brother and I were trying to figure out we wanted to do something, but we weren't sure what we were going to do. And then all of a sudden, one day, it kind of just came to me. I was like, this is the name, this is the idea, this is what we're going to do. These are 15 topics we can talk about. This is how we'll structure it and kind of thing. So then we launched a little bit more than a year ago, and it's been fun. And much like you, there's a ton of dads that I've looked up to, and I've added more to that list, just like other dads and other people I've been able to talk to and connect with through the podcast who are just like really cool people. Well, they're also like really awesome parents with perspectives and different lived experience. And I just think that's so interesting when it comes to being on this side. It's like you get to learn all the different lived experiences and whatnot. Stay at home dads, stay at home moms,
Yeah.
comedians and life coaches and mindset coaches and all these different walks of life and how they got their platforms and why they started their platforms. Everyone has a different reason, and why they want to share. But ultimately, it comes down to wanting to better ourselves for our kids. And I think that's just incredible because, especially having girls as a dad, it's a big responsibility, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say that I admire what you're doing. And I think that it's great that you still do the podcast, and you're still dedicated as a father. I know that you have different challenges sometimes than what I would have just day to day, but I think that it's great that like you're doing your platform and just connecting the way that you can to your kids.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what it's about for us. It's like we're not only connecting for ourselves and for our kids, but we're also trying to share perspectives and stories for other people that need to hear it. Something I've always said and something I've always believed, since we started this was like if we reach one person and this makes an impact on one person somewhere about something, one little thing we said, like it's a complete success. You know, Money, sponsors, whatever, that's all arbitrary. It is what it is. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, doesn't. That's kind of always been the attitude. But if we can not only impact someone, but if we can also be a vessel for good to share a message and to share a story or to, you know, help our community of dads out there, then, it's a success at the end of the day, just based on
Yeah.
that alone.
Yeah, I completely agree. You have to do it for you first. And that's what
Mhm.
I've said too, is like every guest, every conversation that I've had, like has to be for me before it's like trying to reach millions or get whatever sponsorships or whatever. Like it's got to first
Mhm.
be something that I find value in.
Yeah, and the people I talk to, like, I get DMs frequently, much probably like yourself, of just people who are interested in being guests, and it's like I don't know anything about you as a person. Like, I'm sure you're great, but like I see it all the time on like different dad groups on Facebook and stuff. Got guys who have a podcast, and I just want these random dads and stuff on, and I'm like, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Like, if that's your thing and that's what you're going for, like, great. But I have other friends, many of the dad casters in the network the nation that we're kind of in, the tribe, I guess we're in. It's like we all kind of have each other.
Yeah.
And that's our circle because like we all follow each other on our socials and we keep up with each other, watch each other's reels. Like we know what the other person's about when we establish that connection, or we go off recommendations.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I saw that you connected with Everyday Parents podcast. I listened to their podcast. I saw you on there. I saw they were on yours. Obviously, you guys see eye to eye on a lot of things. Like, let's then connect us, kind of thing. And I think it's really interesting
Yeah.
how like our dad casting network works because it's not that big, but it's very, very good.
Yeah. I think it's part of a bigger conversation. Like it's great to have conversations with different people and see how the story continues to unfold over like a long period of time, over multiple relationships, with different perspectives and everything like that. And that's also part of the beauty of podcasting is it's sort of longer form than just like short reels or TikTok videos and stuff like that. Like you can really start to get into the heart of the content and the story.
Yeah, and I think that's the best part is being able to talk about the story and talk about the context and provide the why these other podcasters are doing what, like, why you're doing what you're doing, or why everyday parents do what they do, or why, Hilf and Don Brody, why she does what she does, and where her inspiration comes from. Like, that's the part that I love hearing, like, where you find your inspiration. Of course, we'll get into that a little bit later, but it's it's awesome. Like, that's the joys of podcasting, is that we do it for ourselves first and foremost. Like, the listens are great, the downloads are great, all that arbitrary stuff is great. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what matters is I'm getting value out of it. I'm hearing perspective. I'm making a new connection. I'm making a new friend, adding someone new I can talk to. That's awesome. And just adding to my network of people. So that's a fun part of it. But for you, you mentioned, like, so every guest that I have on, I send them questions. You have to fill out a questionnaire.
Mhm.
It's like a prerequisite. Yes, we can still be friends even though you like pineapple on pizza. I
I know.
forgive
I
you. I'm a
thought the
very
interview would
forgiving
be
guy.
over by that
I,
after that question.
it's a very debatable. I've thought about it a couple times. But then I read what you say after that, and then I give you a chance. But no,
Yeah,
I'm joking.
I hope to gain back credibility after I said I like pineapple on my pizza.
So far, so good. But you specifically mentioned there, like, you love being creative with your kids, inspiring their imagination, and building their confidence.
Yeah.
Building confidence in your kids, but let alone in your daughters, is probably a top three thing you can do for your daughters. Ultimately, like, from my experience, granted, I'm only a couple years ahead of you, but, like, building your confidence in your kids, but in your daughter specifically, now, especially with your ages, is gonna, like, last lifetimes. And
Yeah.
it's so important because our girls need confidence. I was single for about 2 years. I recently um, been dating a girl for the past 6, 7 months. We've known each other for 2 years. We got engaged like a month ago. So obviously, I'm not under that moniker as much anymore. But while I was dating, like, and I'm not trying to say this to, like, trash or bag on anyone, but you can see, like, how how do I say this where it doesn't sound awful, but it's probably going to sound awful. But how people don't have that value of themselves, or I see it all the time in dad's groups as well, like the same saying, like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm just going to stay single. Nobody wants me. Nobody's gonna want me, kind of thing. Yeah, I've been there. I was there for a while, being single. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I come with all this baggage, and I don't have that confidence. And everyone feels like that, especially on dating apps. I mean, it reeks of bad lack of self confidence. Um, but for you, what kind of things are you doing even now with 3 under 4 to build that confidence in your daughters?
Yeah, well, I think the media, in a lot of ways, we're marketed to in ways um, that we're painted in a way that we feel like we need to constantly improve. Like, and I know men just as well as women feel that pressure. Like, we're not strong enough, we're not smart enough, we're not good looking enough, all these kinds of things. And it's men and women. I think that we all kind of suffer from feeling less than we should be. And there's positives in ways that we try to inspire ourselves to improve every day. I think that's like a good thing to like look for ways that we can improve, but not to the detriment of feeling that we don't deserve value. And I think that just naturally, like, we all have value. We have this innate human dignity. We're created good. We're created beautiful. And I think that, like, as we grow up, there's all these different messages, but I think it's so important as parents to tell our kids that they are valued, that we love them, that, they're beautiful, but also that they're strong, they're confident, like, they're smart, all these kinds of things. That value goes way beyond just like beauty. Like there's all these different ways that we can encourage our kids, and they're learning every single day. It's amazing just in 4 years how much my oldest has learned. And she's learning now from her other sisters, and the ones younger than her look up to their older sister and say, yeah, like I want to do what my older sister does. And things that my older sister or says about like movies or characters and that kind of stuff, like they want to do whatever that trend is that
Mm-hmm.
they see in the other. So I think that like as long as we can continue to try to maintain that positive environment at home, then when they're sent off into the quote real world, um, but my oldest is now in preschool, and so she's going to preschool, interacting with other friends, different family lives at home and stuff like that. But she knows when she comes home, she's coming home to a home that is loving, that cares for her, that's building up those values. And then hopefully she can just mirror all of those things to her friends so that her friends can look to her as this person who is confident and see confidence in themselves and all of those kinds of things.
100%. And I think you hit the nail right on the head there. It's you know you your oldest is doing a good job being the oldest when their younger siblings want to be like them, because that's not always the case in families, is where you want to be like your older brothers or sisters in this instance. Like, you don't always want to do the exact same things all the exact same times that they're doing them, but when it is, it's like your oldest is doing something right, if that's the
Yeah.
case. I feel, because it's like my younger one wants to do everything with her sister, everything like her sister, watch the same shows, do the same things, wear the same clothes, wear the same kind of clothes. If the older one's wearing a dress, she wants to wear a dress. If she's wearing a t-shirt and shorts, she wears t-shirt and shorts. If she eats a yogurt, she wants a yogurt. If she gets her granola bar, she gets her granola bar. Like, everything has to match.
Yeah.
And I think this part of that's being fair and equal and wanting the same amount of attention, but like it's always like if the older one's getting something, she's always thinking of like, okay, I gotta grab two because I gotta get myself and I gotta get my sister one. I always gotta
Yeah.
get that plus one and stuff. And I think that's very telling of, how she's been raised. She's been raised to, be look out for her younger siblings and to think about them. Like, if I'm getting a snack, then I know she's probably gonna want a snack. So I should probably get her one
Yeah.
before I get told to go back and grab her one because I didn't get one. Um, but building that confidence, like you said, it's beyond the the beauty. My daughter's absolutely beautiful. They're cute, they're
Yeah.
beautiful, they're smart, they're funny, but it's beyond that. It's beyond like the value. Like, you're so creative, like you're so smart, you have such a great imagination.
Yeah.
Complimenting them, showering with compliments, like telling them specifically what they're good at, but also
Yeah.
not being afraid to. I think it's really hard, and there's a line for girl dads, but don't be afraid to critique and help them be tough and to be strong and to take that constructive criticism, because then if they know that you're coming at it from a place of love as their dad, it's going to be well received, very well in
Yeah.
other places at school and whatnot. They know the difference between being critiqued or corrected versus being told
Yeah.
something they're doing is just plain wrong by someone
Yeah.
else later
Absolutely.
down the line and being misled that way. And the confidence aspect of it is everything, especially as they get older and older. In my conversations with other dads with older girls, like, the confidence plays a huge key in
Yeah.
their future relationships, in their future friendships, in their future romantic relationships, in all of it. Because if they're not confident, then they're going to get mistreated more easily. They're going to get, they're heartbroken more. They're going to be taken advantage of more. And it's just not going to be a pretty picture in the end. Um,
Yeah.
but versus if they're confident and they know exactly, like, oh, I'm smart, I'm talented, I'm creative, I add value, I'm valuable, I have worth beyond my looks, and that bar is going to be the bar is going to be set for you. You're not going to have to
Yeah.
set that bar and have those conversations because they're already have happened, or they're already happening throughout her life. Uh, to for when that time comes, there's a lot less to worry about because you constantly have those conversations regarding like your value, her worth, or what she adds, and she's gonna know like, oh, this isn't being respected. And it starts with us as their dads to set that bar and to set that example. It's not only in the example how you treat them and how you talk to them, but also how you interact with your partner, you know,
Yeah.
with your wife. For me, I have to be very kind to their mother still. Obviously, I'm going to,
Yeah.
she's the mother of my children. I'm going to be kind to her regardless. But, seeing that I still treat her with respect, also now my new fiance, how we interact, it's very loving. It's very, there's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of fun, and it's different. Things are changing and they're different, but it's good. So that confidence piece is huge piece of it.
Yeah. And I also think that it starts with relationship. I think that the stronger the relationship is, the better that you can instill the confidence or even offer critique. Um, because without the relationship, like if you try to tell some, and this is not just for parents, this is for anyone. Like it's for friends, it's for family. Like if you try to critique somebody, it's got to come from a place of relationship, because otherwise like you'll get critique all over the place. Like I mentioned, the media, like school, um all sorts of different places, different people in your community. It might just be someone at the grocery store. Like I get comments all the time like, you have your hands full, when I'm bringing my all of my kids through the grocery store. I get that comment pretty often, or people saying different things or looks and stuff like that. You'll get critique all
Mhm.
over the place, but people aren't receptive to that. We aren't receptive to that unless there's a relationship built on trust. And
Mhm.
also knowing that the person giving that critique or giving that affirmation is coming from a place of true love, that
Mhm.
they want what's best for you. And sometimes that is a critique, like, hey, like that behavior wasn't good. Like you need
Mhm.
to, um like I spend so much time on my phone sometimes, and when my daughter is like, daddy, you've been on your phone for a long time, it's like, man, that hurts. Like
Yeah.
that's coming from a place of love, because she's like, I want to spend time with you, and I owe that to her.
Mhm.
If someone just randomly was like, oh, it looks like this guy's just on his phone, I'm like, well, hey, it's my phone, I have the right to do that.
Yeah, I can do what I
I
want.
would be kind of more combative about it. But when my daughter says that, I take it seriously because I love
Mhm.
her and I know that she loves me. And I think just for parents out there, like the better we can build the relationship, the stronger that connection is. And people often tell me too, like, oh, just you wait till your daughters are older. Since my oldest is 4. And then when she was 3, it was like, oh man, she's already a three-nager. Like, like she
I
starts
have
talking back.
yeah, I have three
Um,
nagers.
yeah. They start talking back. They start questioning things that you say, and you're like, "Oh man, like daddy says this." And they're like, "Well, why?" And you're like, "Well, because I say."
Yeah, because
And that's natural, but I think when you have the relationship, it's fine. And as a parent, like I try to welcome those things because I want them to understand the reasoning behind it, not just to be this authoritative dictator in the house, but to really lead as a true father and say, like, oh, this is what is best for you. Like, here's where I think that it's unsafe for you, or where I think that like you need to be challenged in different ways. And when we have that relationship, it's going to make that stronger and be received well. Um, so yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on that it has to start first with that relationship.
100%. And one part that I want to hit on there from that is it has to come from a place of love and trust, but that place of love and trust is at home. If your
Yeah.
kids aren't getting it at home and they never get it at home and it doesn't come from you or your significant other, it doesn't come from within the home, then you have already lost the battle. Whether as they get older, whether it comes to peer pressure, recognizing bullying in their future relationships and what they do in those relationships, romantic, friendships, whatever, you know, being peer pressured into substance use and all those other things. If those
Yeah.
conversations are not happening at home in a very constructive and loving way, and the information isn't being given, it's a myth. And when it also with safety as well, I'm sure your wife knows this very well. But when it comes to safety of our kids, self injury, self harm, very common.
Mhm.
Um, but if you're not having those conversations at home with your kids, because there's a really weird stigma, which I get, I don't understand it. I work in mental and behavioral health myself. Like, people think like, oh, if I talk to them about sex, if I talk to them about drugs, if I talk to them about cutting themselves, if I talk to them about suicide, if I talk to them about this, or if I talk to them about this, they're gonna do all those things. Wrong. You're giving them the information and the resources and tools and what they need to be able to make an informed decision. And then they know they're more than likely not gonna make the wrong decision because they know the risk and the good and the bad that comes with each of those, and they know where you stand, and they know that regardless of the choice that they make, that they're still going to be loved. Kids who don't have those conversations, guess what they're doing? They're going on TikTok, they're going on YouTube, they're Google searching, inaccurate, false, misleading information, and then they're trying substances, they're having unprotected sex as teenagers, they're um falling into peer pressure. They're cutting just to cut because someone said it was a good thing to do when you feel sad, or all this other stuff. That's what they're doing when you don't have the conversation because they don't have anywhere to get the information from. So they're either trying it to see what it's like, or they're falling into peer pressure a lot easier because they have no one telling them what the dangers or the harms or the risks or the rewards are. So, confidence and then having those conversations and having them at home. Huge parts of
Yep.
it. Also, I don't want to get into it, but you also mentioned like getting comments at the store and stuff.
Yeah.
That bothers me. That bothers me. That bothers
You know,
me.
I will say that like as the dad, I get a lot more favorable comments, like which is just a just a mentality shift, I think. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of interesting this like the kind of the 2% yeah, different perceptions that people have. But like I take all three kids to the store by myself, and it's like a complete disaster. And like I had one time where one of my daughters snuck a Crayola marker with her, and I turn around and she had like marker all over her mouth. And I was like, what? Like she was chewing on the tip of this marker,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in the grocery store. I didn't have much on me, so I'm like trying to wipe her and everything. Just looked like a complete mess. But people oftentimes are like, "Oh, well, like you're such a present father. You're like you're doing so great," and like all these different kinds of positive comments.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I
and my
agree.
wife takes all of the kids to the store, and like all these different looks that she gets sometimes, like, and I'm like, man, she does this like the majority of the time. Like she's making it work, she's doing everything and doing it far better than I normally do,
Mm-hmm.
just to be honest. And but she gets more harsh judgment, I think, and more critique, just the way that she parents. And in reality, I think like every parent is just trying to do the best they can.
I
and
agree.
and I'm like, who am I to judge? Like when I see other parents at the store, I'm like, that's great that you took your kids to the store. Like we don't all have the luxury of just like being able to go to the store like kid free all the time. Like you have to live your life, but it's also an opportunity too as a parent to teach them these things, like whether you take your kid to the store or you got to go um, to the post office or whatever. Like I try to involve my kids and use it as a learning opportunity. Like, okay, here's where we're going. This is why we have to go there. And try to give them opportunities to help in some way, whether it's like loading the shopping cart or just talking to the person like across the counter and asking like what they're doing and stuff. But yeah, I think it's great for the kids too.
100%. And I agree, it is more favorable for dads than moms. It's across the board when it comes to pretty much doing everything, including breathing. Um, like like you said, like, oh, look, you're a present dad. Look at you doing a good job. Like, let's clap and do all this for you. When I don't know if it was you that posted it or if it was someone else, but someone posted like a journal that did a study about how like um Gen, not millennials, like
Gen Z or
no, it was like going backwards, not
oh, Gen
boomers.
X.
The one after like boomers, but before millennials. Is it Gen X?
I think it's Gen X
I
between boomers and millennials.
I think so. So Gen X, like, and boomers had reported changing diapers, like, boomer dads reported changing diapers, like, I don't know, 10% of the time. Like, 10 of them had
Yeah.
touched or changed a diaper. Gen X had reported, I want to say it was like 20, 30%. Fast forward to today with millennials and what's after millennials? Gen Z, right? Um,
Yeah, Gen Z, I think.
like Gen Z and millennials and Gen Z, that number skyrockets to like 80, 90%. Like, it's
Yeah.
changing. Like, I see a lot more. Maybe it's just the circles I'm in and what I talk about and what Google and AI and my FBI security agent decides to push me on a given day. But I get a lot of content saying like, "Where's the changing room in the men's bathroom?" Like, you know how many
Yeah,
times,
that's
and
a
you've
big
probably been
pet
there
peeve of
too.
mine.
Like,
Yeah.
I've been to these bathrooms so many times, and it's like I need to change my kid, but there's
Yeah.
no changing table. How am I supposed to change my kid who has poop down her back when there's no changing table in this bathroom and there's no family
Yeah.
restroom? Like, that's where a lot of places are behind. Uh, actually saw something today, like someone wanted to like start a fundraiser to help like small businesses and smaller restaurants and places get these like installed for them in the men's bathroom.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, 100%
Um,
agree. Yeah.
because I think those are the businesses that need the help the most to start it. And it's very easy for communities and people to get behind helping these small businesses incorporate that into what they're doing. Like, it just sounds like a win-win. It's an area to start.
Yeah.
You kind of have to, for something like that, you have to start where it's going to appease the masses. Because you can't just go
Yeah.
about it and be like, sign this petition to get a changing station in every men's bathroom at Walmart, at Target. Like, those guys can go and take care of themselves. Like, if they really want to do it, they'll do it. But whatever. This petition isn't
Yeah.
going to change anything. But when you take it more local into your community, like, hey, we're working on this community fundraiser to provide, the top 10 restaurants in the area that were voted top 10 in the area. We're
Yeah.
going to help provide them changing tables in the men's bathroom to get them, buy them and install them for them. Then it's really easy. You find a contractor who will bolt them up real quick for no cost.
Yeah.
Then you start getting donations from the community. You hold fundraisers. Then you start bringing out different organizations. You find the behavioral health services, the mental health services. You get all these different places, the churches and things involved. And then it just pops off, and it's like you're a local hero at that essence. Because
Yeah.
then it starts small, and that starts in one community, and then you go to a neighboring community and you find a group of people who want to do the same thing there, or they caught wind of it and they're like, hey, we want to do the same in our city for our top 10 restaurants. And then the next, 11 through 20 are like, hey, can we get in on the next one and support you guys and help you guys, fundraise for this as well and put our name behind it because we think that's a good cause. And then it goes from 10 restaurants
Yeah.
to now you're at 40 restaurants. Now you're at 60 restaurants. And now you're starting to make headlines locally and at the state level and the county level. And then it starts to spread. Start small though.
Yeah.
Start in your community.
I'm all for it. Yeah, let me know if that's going on. Like, I'd be the first to share it, post it, like, yeah, back it, all that. Like,
It
I've
really,
been thinking about doing that because whenever, like, we went to the public library and I was like, this is a place for families. And in the bathroom, at this men's bathroom, I guess, there was no changing table. I was like, this should be a library. This should be like, of all the places, like, you'd have your kids. That's a common thing for dads to take your kid to the library, and often like sometimes by myself because it's like an easy place for dads just to take the kids by themselves.
yeah.
And I was like, there should be a changing station. So yeah, I'd love to support a cause like that. That
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
I think it'd be cool. And it'd be really easy to do it at a local level. But um yeah, I would totally get behind it. And I don't think it would
Yeah.
be that hard to do. Like, You need one
Yeah.
contractor who can bolt them up. You need 10 business.
Oh, sure.
Find your top 10 restaurants. Google it. Go to Yelp. Find your top 10 restaurants. Contact them. Do you guys have a changing table in your men's restroom? No. Okay, we're gonna put you on a list for something we're doing. Would you be interested in helping us? Put your name behind this thing that we're doing. You could literally knock it out
Absolutely.
in like a week and get it rolling and post it in your community buy sell trade pages and all that
Yeah.
to get it rolling.
One
So
step beyond that, if I may,
yeah, of course.
I just want to shout out family restrooms because especially as a girl dad, like I don't always feel now my when I have babies it doesn't really matter. I just like bring
Mm-hmm.
them with me, throw them on the changing table. Now that my oldest is 4 and she's starting to get like more wandering and stuff, and especially if I have multiple kids with me at the same time and I'm the only one to be able to take them into the bathroom, um, it is challenging, like taking them into the men's restroom, like having girls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you do the best you can. And yeah, like I'm curious kind of across the board, like what, yeah, different parents' views are. I think like my
Family
view as a dad
restrooms
is
are
like, yeah.
family restrooms are a saving grace. Now my two are kind of my youngest one is potty trained. She's almost 3. She's not 3 yet, but she's close enough. So she's 3. The older one, she's fully potty trained. She's been fully potty trained about probably for about, I don't know, probably about since she was like 2 and 3, 4 months. So she was potty trained pretty early, all things considered. But now the older one can take her potty, and I can just wait outside the restroom. Um,
Yeah.
do I hear screaming and fighting a lot of the time when they're in there? Yeah, absolutely. Do I have to deal with it? No, that's her sister's problem. Um, she gets to work through that with her and help her. But no, they make it work. They gotten used to it. But family restrooms are a saving grace, especially the ones that
Yeah.
have 2 toilets. Like they have the little tiny toilet,
Oh, uh-huh.
and then there's a big toilet. So if you have multiple kids that all need to go at the same time, like the littlest one goes on the little
Yeah.
potty, and then they put the bigger one on the bigger potty, and then there's 2 sinks, and then you can both wash your hands, and it's
Oh, that's great.
much more streamlined. They have one of those here. It's at the mall, and it's the best. What drives me crazy about family bathrooms, though, is when there's just a single person in there, and you're waiting, and they just come out, and you know what they did in there, and it's like, really, like you couldn't go in the other one, like leave it open. Anyone who uses a family bathroom just for yourself, you're awful. It's like it's comparing it to, I don't know, what's something comparable.
I was just thinking like handicap parking spots or
That's
something
what
like
my
that, or
mind
like
went to too. Like if you
where it's like
park,
reserved for a reason.
yeah,
But yeah.
like it's not for you. It's not for you. It's for me and my children, so that I don't have to take them into this gross men's bathroom. You don't need to make this family restroom gross. This is serves a purpose for me and for these other families, not for you to have a quiet place to poop. So that's
Yeah.
just
And
that's
and
just my
we're
take.
potty training right now. It's kind of interesting because my oldest is 4 and um yeah, we're trying to potty train earlier and we're still in the process. But now that the 2-year-old sees the older one, we're kind of potty training together, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bathrooms that have like the step stools are really great because
Yes.
that's all part of the process. And the
Yeah.
more that you can encourage them to be independent,
Hundred
do
percent.
all the things by themselves, I think is great.
100%. So my tip there, just personally, buy a little plastic stool from the cleaning section.
Mhm.
They'll use that thing for everything. It will get used and abused, and they will love using that stool. That stool will come in handy. You tell the older one to go get dressed, and you have stuff on a hanger, and she needs to get it. Guess what? She uses that stool. She gets her dress done by herself, and she's so happy and so proud of herself. Um,
Yeah.
and then get like one of those little potties too. Those are great. Um, those are great.
Yeah.
Can't recommend those enough. But along with that, incentive. Think of potty training a child like you would train a dog to do tricks. Um, and I mean this in the most loving way. But for my youngest one, I had to train her with Skittles and M&Ms.
Hmm.
If she peed in the potty, she got one M&M. If she pooped, she got two M&Ms. You know, higher value, more M&Ms, um, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
it works. You know, you got to give them incentive. Kids are it's a very simple incentive. Go to the gas station, go buy two
Yeah.
packs of M&Ms. You'll have your kid potty trained in a week. Um,
So
Go ahead.
so we had the M&Ms, we had the stool, and we had the little potty. And we had I think she was 3 at the time, a 3-year-old that was super smart and conniving, and we were in the other room, and she got her stool, put it on top of her little potty, and reached up on the counter and grabbed the entire bag of M&Ms.
See,
And
exactly.
we're like, all right, so she is smart, and we're going to try to find a better spot for those
Yeah,
M&Ms.
keep them up high.
But yeah.
You know, they're a reward. But no, I highly recommend like get the stool because then the stool can be used for hand washing. They can do it themselves and get a pump soap. Pump soaps work really well because
Yeah.
bars can be a little hard, but pump soap's fun because it comes out foamy and it's a pump. And just make sure when your little one's potty training and learning how to wash your hands, just make sure you're in there because soap and water will be all over because it's fun, it's bubbles, and it makes a good time. But no, it's potty training's
Yeah.
fun. It's definitely. Hopefully, you get the first two potty trained before it's time to potty train the third one.
Yeah.
That's your goal. Get those two potty trained, so then it's that third one will be like, well, everyone else uses the toilet. I want to use it. Um, Biggest sign that you probably know this, but biggest sign for parents who are first time parents and not there yet, when they start to rip off their diapers a lot, that's the sign I've lived by is like as soon as they start to rip off their diapers and they kind of start looking at the bathroom and seeing what's going on in there and you know getting interested and whatnot, then you know introduce them, sit them on the toilet, you know, show them what's up. Um, every kid's gonna be different. Boys are boys and girls a lot different to potty train. Girls are probably way
Mhm.
easier because they sit and they can't get it everywhere. Boys, it's gonna be everywhere. I don't envy boy parents at all when it comes to this, when it comes to potty training. But I heard Cheerios work really well for boys. Um, kind of like what's that one skeet shooting?
Yeah. 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 Or Fruit Loops, you got like the different
Exactly.
colors for
Yeah,
different point values.
exactly. Matthew, do not go and take your kids Fruit Loops to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Don't take the kids Fruit Loops to the bathroom, please don't. But as we wrap up here, Matthew, I wanted to do something with you. I wanted to do the YDP 3 with
Yeah.
you. It's 3 questions to help the listeners and me kind of just know more about you and just in general some advice and some things that you live by. So the first one here, where are you rooted? Like
Yeah, that's a great question.
where do your roots run?
So I'm a proud Colorado native. Grew up in Colorado. I went to school in Santa Fe, but yeah, came back to Colorado. My wife is from here as well, and we have the privilege of raising our 3 daughters here. So yeah, it's just been wonderful. I love the mountains. Um, I miss the beach sometimes, but the mountains are great. And yeah, this is where I call home.
Love it. And where are you rooted like more symbolically? Like where do your roots run just
Great.
through life?
Yeah, I would say family is super important to me. Um, we have chosen to live close to our parents. So it's great that we have both sets of family very close to us. And often, like our siblings, aunts and uncles, are great. They're part of our kids' lives. Grandparents are part of our kids' lives. So that's something that's always been very important to us. We've stayed close to our like family community, friend community, and then like our faith community around here.
I love that. I think that's so important for kids to be somewhere that you're familiar with, like be somewhere comfortable for yourself and for your kids. Like now that I'm here, in the Tri Cities in Washington. It's where my kids are used to now. It's like my fiance is like, I don't ever really want to leave here, and I'm like, I'm stuck in the Tri Cities for the rest of my life. This is gonna be great. I love it. I'm so excited. But no, but like it's so interesting to think like where are you rooted? Where do your roots run? Like what's important to you? Like where are your values? And you said family's so important, especially for our kids, being able to have those connections and those,
Yeah.
essentially natural supports because every
Mhm.
aunt, every uncle, every grandparent, everyone that they're connected to, cousins and everyone is just someone who can and will support them because
Yeah.
maybe it's not coming to you or to your wife or something. Maybe it is going to be the crazy aunt that everyone's like that sister is the crazy one, but maybe that's the one your middle child connects to the most and who she really
Yeah.
trusts. Or maybe your youngest one connects to the other uncle that's like, oh, that's the last person I thought you connect to. But maybe they just have a really good connection for some reason. Um, and it's beautiful
Yeah.
to be able to see grandparents, their grandparents and be able to interact with them and that whole dynamic of when you're like, what the heck? You didn't treat me like that. Now you got McDonald's money? I so that's
Oh
cool.
yeah. Yeah,
But
the grandparents love spoiling the kids. Like it's like everything. It's like we go anywhere and the kids know not to ask us when we go to the gift shop. They're asking the grandparents to get them
100%.
something. And the grandparents it's just like, handing out just dollar bills everywhere. Like
Yeah,
and they're so excited. But it's a great relationship. I will say though, I wanted to add one disclaimer to that. And I just say this because not everybody has the greatest family
very
dynamics
true.
and stuff.
Very true.
So every parent, I think, has to make that decision for their family. I think it goes both ways. I've heard stories of grandparents like purposefully distant from their kids and parents wanting them to be more involved in their kids' lives. And I've heard other stories of grandparents sometimes being overbearing, where they want to be
Mhm.
so involved, and parents wanting more boundaries in their life. And I think that every parent has to decide together if you're parenting together, but has to decide for their family what is the best relationship that they want for their kids. And I think that's good. That goes back to the relationships again. Like you need to know the people that your kids are interacting with, whether it's family or friends, and decide if that person is someone that you want to have an influence on your kids. And there's some really wonderful things that can happen. What, like you said, when you have aunts and uncles and other family that's making a positive impact for your family. And there's so many wonderful things. It's amazing, even in my own family, to see the ways that my girls benefit from those different relationships. But I think it also comes with just knowing those lines that you have to set in your own family.
100%. And I think that's so true. Like for me personally, my biological mother, nowhere near myself, nowhere near my family, nowhere near my kids. I don't even know if she knows
Mhm.
she has grandchildren, like my biological mother. Um, you know, I never told her. She was never invited to my wedding. She was never told the grandkids or anything like that. Um, it's my dad. He chooses to be a little bit more distant. That's just him. That's just who he is. But like whenever I'm talking to him on the phone and the kids are around, like he talks to them, he interacts with them, things like that. And everyone's different on how they are, and sometimes you do have to set those boundaries, and you have to hold those boundaries. What are you going to allow, and what are you going to be firm on, and you're going to have to check, your own parents sometimes, like, yo, look, stop, back off, be grandma, be grandpa, like, have
Yeah.
fun with them. Don't try to overstep my parenting kind of
Yeah.
thing. Don't overstep what I'm doing. You know, hold those boundaries. Make sure make sure you and your partner are on the same page. Like, hey, you got mad at my mom for doing that, and your mom's doing the same thing. Like, let's be even across the board. Have those hard conversations, but those hard conversations ultimately going to lead to growth. But second one
Yeah.
here, what grounds you? Like, where do you find yourself being grounded on a daily basis? Like, what helps you feel grounded?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind with this question is my faith. Um, I have a strong faith background. I'm Catholic, and so like everything that I see is in relationship to that faith foundation, my relationship to God, my belief in Jesus. And that's the way that my wife and I are choosing to raise our kids, in that faith background. So even though like my podcast platform is not like politically or religiously affiliated,
Hmm.
directly, just as a human, that's the belief that I have, and so I share that sometimes on the podcast, if it comes up, and I welcome like people sharing their own faith backgrounds on the podcast and other ways that I connect with people. But yeah, but that's really, as I said, everything comes back to relationship, and I think that my relationship with God and everything in that faith lens, through a Catholic lens, has just been this beautiful gift that I've accepted, and has added so much value to my life, so much purpose, so much joy, in the way that I approach life, in the way that I approach my relationships, and in the way that I'm trying to raise my kids.
I love that. I love that. And that's so important, like for so many people, like, and we're the same way here. Obviously, you know, our podcast, we're not a Christian podcast, but we do talk about faith a lot. We aren't afraid to touch it. We aren't afraid to bring it up. We aren't afraid of it. You know, if that's how God wants us to be used, and we're a vessel, and that's how we can reach more people, and what our message is not tame, not focused around, but a part of our message, and that's a part of our message, and it needs to resonate with someone for some reason. There's no
Mhm.
mistakes there, and I think it's really important. My daughters, same story. They're being raised in church. They're very familiar with it. Like, we're up at our church building twice a week on Sundays for church, and then on Mondays for Awana. Like, we're very, very involved in our faith and our faith community and whatnot, because it's just that it's a community. It's not only just about
Yeah.
the gospel and the scripture. Like, it's about the people as well. Like, you can make connections and friends and people who are going to support you and support your kids and be there for you and care about you and stuff. Just a very wholesome, very well, not all, disclaimer, not all churches are non-judgmental. Like, there are judgmental people wherever you go. But for the most part, like, supportive and there, and it's a great, integrated kind of place, um, to where people are accepted. So obviously, we're not telling you to be Catholic or be Christian, but if you have a faith and it works for you, or a spiritual background is something that works for you in this aspect, like, lean into it, give into that, because it can help ground you, and just remember, help you make those harder decisions and have those tougher conversations. But 100% agree with you. Like, it's huge in my life as well, and it helps you make those important decisions, and to think things through how you're going to act or react or do certain things with certain people and with your kids and your relationship, especially. So important. So
Yeah.
important.
And I also think that so much of the time, like I want to do things by myself. Like I want to take charge, um, be the man of the house, the dad, etc. And man, so often I just fall flat on my face. And
100%.
just having a belief in something or someone greater than myself is just, it's such a comforting thing to be like, you know what, like I'm put on this earth for a reason. Like I have a creator. I have someone that loves me, that created me for a purpose, and that I don't have to do this alone. That
100%.
I'm made for something more, and I don't have to be the one that shoulders everything. So, yeah, that's given me so much comfort.
100%. Yeah, that's actually something I wrote about a few weeks ago. It's over on my website. Um, I wrote about just how we don't have to shoulder it. We're not alone, and we're not meant to be alone. We're here for a purpose. We're here to be vessels for the message that we're supposed to share, and we're given different talents and whatnot. Like, obviously, you and I, we were given the ability and the reasoning, for some reason, to have our platforms and to have our shows and to reach thousands of people and for people to listen to us for thousands of hours in total and whatnot. And there's a reason for it. There's a reason. There's no mistakes. There's no coincidences. I believe God makes no mistakes. It's not a coincidence or anything like that to how you connect with people or how people come in and out of your life. Like there's no mistakes. There's always something to learn or gain from all those different experiences and whatnot. But 100% right. We have a creator who loves us and put us here for a purpose. And our goal is to fulfill that purpose, not only as, just men in general, but as fathers, as husbands, as men and people and good people to our communities and to our network. So 100% agree with you there. Last one here. The question I ask everyone here on the podcast toward the end here. What is the advice that you have for a father who is down in the dumps, struggling, just in a really dark place? What are you saying to that father who also has 3 kids under 4, but is just drowning and just can't feel to get out of it?
Yeah, I would say first that you are loved. I think that is something that is easy said, but it's hard received sometimes. But we have to come to the place to allow ourselves to understand that truth, that we are loved. And like from a faith background, we are loved by God. But if you are struggling with that in your life, maybe you don't believe in God, maybe it's hard to accept those different kinds of things, to think about something in terms of that faith background, but you are loved, and then you are loved by your kids. I think that we are given the opportunity in very natural ways in our family dynamics. Like when you become a father, like that experience for me, I'm sure so many other fathers had this same experience. You look at that child and immediately it's just this amazing feeling of love that I've never felt in the same way before. And it's just so natural. And it's just such a gift. And the way that your child then looks at you as their father, you are loved. So that's what I would say. It's so hard to give like specific advice because people are in so many
Oh,
different
100%.
situations, but that should be the foundation, is know that you are valued and you are loved. And then whatever, given your situation, whatever that situation is, find that community to support you, because that's out there. Um, and don't give up. Keep fighting. Keep getting connected to your community. Um, there's amazing resources out there like this podcast and many others. So find those voices to keep encouraging you and keep doing the good fight.
100%, man. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like that's where the mess. I actually said that today when I was out of training for work, and I mentioned that same thing. Like it comes because we were talking about race and like cultural, all these cultural different things and things like that. But it's like the thing that I shared in that
Yeah.
was like people need to feel like they're loved. Like you are loved. Like look around you. Like maybe you are single, but do you have friends that love and care about you? Likely. Do you have kids that love you? Likely. Unless you're just a total deadbeat or whatnot, then maybe not. But majority speaking here, yes. Do you have a parental figure or a grandparental figure or an aunt, uncle, or some kind of family that loves you? Yes. It's up to you to reach out and get that love. People can't know they need to love you if you aren't, reaching out and asking for that love. Sometimes you do have to ask. It's not just going to be freely given. But when you do ask, then it is going to be freely given after that. People don't know unless you let them know. Don't be afraid to communicate that need. And just remember that you are worthy of that love. You do deserve it. You are okay to receive it. It's okay to ask. Like don't be afraid. You are loved and you are worthy to be loved. So just to piggyback on that and to just, strengthen that a little bit more. But Matthew, we're
Thank you.
we're right about there at that time, man, and it's been a great conversation with you. I can't believe it's already been almost an hour. Go ahead
Yeah, it
and
goes by fast. Thank you.
it goes by so fast, and it's so fun, and it's it's a roller coaster in itself. So thanks for coming on. Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you.
Great, thank you. So, Girl Dad Nation is on all the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So go check that out. I interview dads of daughters mostly, and then I also share some practical dad advice called Dad Hacks in some episodes. So that's been really great. I hope to have Jay on my podcast soon. So check that out. And then I'm also on social media. So mostly on Instagram at Girl Dad Nation. But I'm also on Twitter. I think it's now X,
Twitter slash X.
and Twitter/X, and Facebook for people still on Facebook. So yeah, check us out, Girl Dad Nation on all the things.
Awesome. Well, Matthew, thanks again for coming on. Audience, go ahead and do your thing. Give us a rousing round of applause, and we'll catch you next week. Any audience? They're asleep. Well, we're gonna say good night. Good night.
Thank you.